Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video for Eve Echoes. Today we had a developer AMA, and the topic was supposed to be on balance and stability, so talking about ship balance and server stability and things like that, but naturally being an AMA, people ask what they want to ask, and in fairness the developers were very understanding and answered pretty much all the questions that got thrown at them. All the serious ones, a couple of jokey ones as well, some really cool stuff in here, and ultimately I won't lie, there were over 60 questions. I'm not going to do all of these in one video because that's going to bore the ever-living daylights out of you, and I just don't have the capacity to sit down and talk about all 60 of these in one go. So I'm going to split this into two videos, one today, one probably tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed in order to not miss that one. I'm not going to do a big preamble here, but if you do want to go the extra mile to help support this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you'd head over to both Patreon and our Redbubble merchandise store, just see if there's anything there that you fancy that might help support the channel. Anyway, with that all said and done, I'm going to go through the first half of these questions. I'm not going to give too much in the way of opinions and thoughts. I'm just going to read the answers and explain what it means if there's sort of any confusion going on. So starting off, first of all, when will the local bug be fixed? Now, this to me was just one of those questions that kept popping up. I'm glad they answered it straight off the bat, because this is a relatively recent bug. Bugs are one of these things that ultimately, it may seem a really simple little thing to you, but it doesn't work like that. Sometimes a simple fix, what appears to be a simple fix, causes all kinds of other problems down the line. And they actually clarify that's exactly what happened here. In order to improve the ease of the local channel, we've recently made some optimizations about it. Unfortunately, we found some underlying code problems during the process which have caused many small bugs. Recently, we're refactoring the code of local channels, chat, and other systems, but because this is a relatively large project, it will take a certain amount of time, but we'll have someone continue to do it. In the near future, player suggestions for local channel optimization will also be considered in the game. Basically, like most bugs, we're aware of it, it will be fixed when it's fixed, say the developers. In terms of design, says Lance here, this is a question about how low-tech ships fit into the game and will we ever go back and rebalance those. They're all defined as transitional ships, because we'll launch the full-featured versions of these ships in high-tech grades, such as Tier 9 or Tier 10. However, the utilisation rate of some low-tonnage ships, escort, destroyer, cruiser, is indeed relatively low, and we also have paid attention to this issue. The reason that those are low, except for interceptors, is because destroyers are worthless and cruisers just don't do enough compared to interceptors for PvP, or enough compared to battleships for PvE. Anyway, later new gameplay and balance adjustments will be used to bring more display stages to these ships. Awesome, so we're getting more stuff to these ships, and hopefully some more high-tier versions. That still gives me hope for a Tristan Assault and a Rifter Assault. Why have the black screens been getting progressively worse? I remember fights with over 1,000 players in. This is a recurring question. There's a lot of this stuff. I don't know if you have seen over the past couple of days on Reddit, there was images of a 1,500 ship fight that did not cause black screens. It's caused a bit of like an upset in the community. I mean, understandably so. If you're used to getting disconnects and you see someone else not getting them, you can understandably ask the question, why? Unfortunately, it's also brought out a lot of the worst in the community, where people just assume the worst is going on. Melos here says, introducing new skins and other new features will make impacts to current client performance. We'll keep improving this, and we plan to put more energy to improve performance in the next year. And they are currently working on stuff. You'll see this question crops up a lot. I've done this in chronological order, I've not grouped things together. Capital ships are so weak and so easy to catch. Any new ideas about fixing this? Well, yes, they're not weak. Capital ships are not weak at all. They just can't take on an entire fleet by themselves. They're not designed to do so. And I think people are still under the impression that because they're so expensive, capital ships should just be doing everything, which is just wrong. Lance says, according to current productivity, the cost of the flagship is relatively high. Therefore, in an environment that it may be destroyed, the increase in risk brought by driving a flagship will be more significant than the increase in combat capability, mainly because people want capital kill mails. Therefore, the flagship at this stage is positioned more as a strategic resource of the Legion and the Alliance. It's worth noting that whenever Lance says Legion throughout this, he does mean alliances, rather than a tool of labour. In the future, we will focus on whether this ecology is healthy, and it may adjust the cost of flagships by changing industrial output and insurance preferential ratios. Basically, capitals are not meant to do everything, and if you're expecting them to do so, they're not going to, but they're going to keep an eye on things and make sure that the cost of a capital does seem fair to what it can actually achieve. Fair point. There were also so many people in this asking when Titans are going to be added, and if you're not trolling, Jesus Christ, shut up. No, no. Capitals already don't do hardly anything in the game, and you want Titans? Anyway, why did you choose that profile picture, asks Mace. Lance says I need to choose a more relaxed question. Things were getting pretty heated. Because I really like this animation work of Ghost in the Shell. Now, you can't properly see it because it is cut off a little bit, but basically, that is the artwork from the Ghost in the Shell manga. It is Major Kusanagi, Motoko Kusanagi, sitting on top of a Tachikoma, and I know this because that's one of my favourite manga. I absolutely love the standalone Complex series and the original 1980s film version of Ghost in the Shell as well. Recent stuff, not so much, and the Scarlett Johansson film can get in the bin, but the anime and the manga, absolutely love it. One of my favourite series. Any plans to balance armor links, like shield gets resistance on activation? Now before we go to Melis's response, these are asymmetrical systems. Shield fields get additional resistance to the ship using them because that ship absorbs all of the damage coming in. With armor links, it is not the case. It is not the one ship absorbing all of the damage for every single enemy getting, for every single friendly ship getting shot at. The damage is spread, which is why you don't get that additional resistance. You don't need it. Can you imagine if a shield field module didn't give that resistance, and suddenly the entire enemy fleet shooting at one ship? Yeah, you're going to lose that ship instantly. So that's why it is the way it is. These are not symmetrical systems. Asking to reboot an asymmetrical system to something symmetrical, I think, loses a lot of the interesting adjustments to the game. Heck, we're in Minmatar space. Most of our stuff is shield tanked, but we still will use armor links as well, because in certain situations, they can be really useful. For a brawling fleet, an armor link is infinitely better than a shield field module because the enemy's going to be inside the shield field and thus it does nothing. Anyway, I'm rambling. We've started to analyse the balance between armor and shield again, says Melos. Currently, we don't have certain conclusions to share, but you can see it in future updates. They don't need balancing, is my personal opinion, and it seems that Melos kind of agrees, but they're keeping an eye on things. Why have the black screens been getting worse? Same question again. Lance here points out, in fact, from the logs we observed in the background, the situation should not have deteriorated recently, and the rate of occurrence of the problem has always been stable. I think this is one of those things that just more people are shouting out about it now. The problem has always been as bad as it is. It's not getting worse. It's just more people are talking about it, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Just be aware that this is how statistics work. However, as the number of people participating in the battle has increased, the number of people encountering has also increased. We attach great importance to the issue, so we have recently added some new mechanisms to improve the stability of large-scale operations, including the previously introduced potato mode. I love that they call it that, and recent manual time expansion. As Rabbit said on the announcement channel yesterday, we'll set these new features to be turned on automatically after they stabilise. I hope to be able to automatically improve the stability of the galaxy during large-scale operations without our manual support. Currently, they have to monitor things, and when a system looks like it's currently getting bad, they switch on time dilation. They've tried automating this in the past, they clarify later, but it didn't always switch on in time. How are nanocores actually balanced against ships and skill bonuses? This is a very difficult question to answer, but I still hope to express our voice. Since Echoes is a mobile game, the entire market environment has strict requirements on us. If the output of new content can't be maintained, there'll be fewer and fewer new players, and if there's not enough rewards and new ones in the festival activities, we will also lose some players already in the game. However, as EVE Online players, we don't want to give away or sell the ships, equipment, modifications, planetary products, minerals, ISK and other items produced by the players. Therefore, in addition to skill points, we need a new system to support this in each activity for launch and commercialization. Only in this way can it be ensured that the content produced by the system and the content produced by the players are independent of each other and will not interfere with each other. That's a really honest answer there, that basically they're saying, look, this game needs to make money, and we need to keep new players coming in to spend that money to replace the old players who drop off, but we also want to retain those. But since we can't give you ships and equipment and like big modifications and stuff like that, this is how we have to do it. Fair point. What does NetEase plan to do to improve player retention and new players to play? The basic answer here is that they attach great importance to the retention of new players, spend a lot of manpower on the optimization of the newbie tasks, and although the current version still has a lot of room for improvement, it's a lot better than it was when we launched in 2020. The newbies now have made a lot of progress, but they did not stop. There are more plans for novices such as Novice 7-Day Mission and the guidance to help novices find the Legion. Although Eve Echoes is a relatively hardcore game in terms of settings, we can still hope that the help of novices and the Legion, the Alliance, we can help more new players stay in the game. This is a key thing. Eve as a game has a massive barrier to entry. Essentially, you're asking your players to jump in and figure out all of this crazy stuff. How ship fitting works, how your power grid works, how different weapons work, tracking, missile application, capacitor, Nosferatus, acceleration, afterburners, micro warp drives. There's so much stuff for a new player to learn here that it does take a lot of time and effort. And some people will jump in, get ridiculously confused, and then jump out because they're bored. Other people will start figuring it out, but then not realise that there's this entire world of content outside of HiSec. They're too scared to go out that way. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and quite frankly, if I could offer help to the developers, I really would. If they would be happy for me to help out, 100% I would do everything I can to help. Chinese servers also have skins. Why not black screen? I'm worried you guys are optimizing in the wrong direction, and we're still back onto this optimization topic here. But then again, I guess in fairness, stability was one of the topics of the AMA. In fact, says Lance, the Chinese server will also have a black screen. Haha. In the previous screenshot on Reddit, there was no lag in the 1500 battle of the Y8 Galaxy because we manually turned on the time dilation, but the K4 Galaxy next to it is still very stuck. The international server is the same as the Chinese server in terms of hardware configuration and code. The reason why I chose to try to manual adjustments on the Chinese server that day was because we were about to leave work and received a server alarm. So we grabbed this rare experimental sample. This precious site is even less common than our robot stress test. Basically, the devs were in the right place at the right time when that battle happened. Funny that a battle that happens in Chinese prime time would be noticed by Chinese developers. There's not some conspiracy here, guys. It's just literally circumstance. And it means that they've got more data for figuring out how to automate this process for the global server. We run the exact same architecture, the exact same code. And just before I move on, the point you can understand there is no developer wants to develop two whole sets of code and try to then make each balance and every update work on both sets. It just doesn't work like that. They've got one set of code that they then basically manipulate for each side. Is the new Concord price of Cloud AI an accident, or is it meant for one to cost 5,000 Concord points? And they talk about how insane that is, and I agree. I dare not jump to conclusions now, says Lance, because we still spend our time responding to your questions. After the AMA is over, we'll continue to check as soon as possible to see if it's a bug. Confirmed, it's a bug. Don't buy it first, we'll change it right away. So, hold out from buying the Cloud Factoring AIs if they haven't updated it already by the time this video is out. They will be fixing that. Smart bombs when? This is an interesting question. Smart bombs are currently planned for the first half of next year. Because of the relatively difficult operation of the bomb for Stealth Bomber, it's still uncertain whether it can be placed next year. Now, I've asked for clarity here because smart bombs and bombs are two very different things. Smart bombs are high slot modules that you activate and they do a pulsing explosion out around your ship that hits anything close by. Bombs, on the other hand, are launched from the front of stealth bombers, travel for 10 seconds, over 30 kilometers, and then explode at their destination. Two very different systems. Now, I think here that Lance is talking about bombs, which is something I can get behind and I'm excited for. Bombers with bombs is something we really, really need. Like, seriously, it makes stealth bombers so good, actually useful. Smart bombs, on the other hand, are something I've talked about before in previous videos. I don't really like it as a design concept, but hey, but they're very different things. I have asked for clarity on this. If I've got clarity before this video goes live, I'll post it on screen now. If you don't see anything on screen, just the question, that means I haven't had an answer yet. How and when will mining be balanced and adjusted? It's expected that there will be changes to minerals in the first half of next year, and the expected direction is to increase the material opening rate and increase the degree of automation. But this involves the cornerstone of EE. We still need more time to demonstrate. This sounds like, and remember Lance is basically using Google Translate for a lot of this here, that they are going to be tweaking how minerals and that work. Material opening rate is I assume to be the cost of materials in the blueprint, so increasing the amount of materials that blueprints consume, and increase the degree of automation. Not sure what that bit there means, but either way, they're looking at industry, they're looking at mining and trying to figure out fixes for it, which is good. Where is the 60 FPS option in game? After the black screen problem is solved, the person in charge of game performance can go to the development of 60 FPS. That's awesome for me. If you've watched any of my videos when I do like a ship fitting and I go into the ship tree and you've seen that flickering, that's because my device only runs at a minimum of 60 FPS and it's trying to display a game at 30 FPS, and that causes screen tearing. Which is the problem in the blinking and that you've seen there. So a 60 FPS update would be really good for me personally. Can we have a game-wide killboard like the Chinese server, or an API? The international service will also open the ranking list in the near future, and hope that this feature can bring a higher sense of honour to each alliance. If you have more suggestions for this feature, you can also contact Taylor's Fox. So if you are an API designer, please contact Taylor's Fox, see if you can help out and figure out how we can get an API up and running for this. I want it too, by the way. It's one of those things that gets asked an awful lot. People keep saying, hey, have we heard anything about it? Ask Taylor's Fox. When are we getting stuff like mobile tractor units and mobile depots to help out PvE? We're making a new module to help routing, maybe release in early 2022. Not entirely sure what he means by routing here, but as a point, mobile depots are these objects you can drop into space. They allow you to sort of move stuff around your cargo holds and change your fitting and stuff like that whilst you're undocked. It's basically like docking your ship but in space so you can still be shot at. And mobile tractor units are these items that essentially drag things together like a tractor beam. Very useful in looting for PvE. A new module to help routing. I'm not entirely certain what they mean. Does he mean routing as in like planning a route, or does he mean routing as in like parking in place? We'll have to see, I guess. Someone asked about are drones accounted for in regards to time dilation. Melos says taking drones into account for time dilation is a very good suggestion. He'll check with the technical team to see if it's possible to implement. Will you add the ability to rename our ships? Yes, please. I created an entire character called Silent Rose just because I wanted to have the Hurricane called Silent Rose. Yes, this feature is under development, but we had some trouble on testing. It will be released when it's ready, so yay, that's coming. Why haven't the local list not updating bugs still been fixed? We plan on fixing the bug in the chat system. Make chatting easier will become one of our important goals. You'll see that this is one of those things, again, as I said right at the start of this video, bug will be fixed when bug is fixed. You can't just click your fingers and make it happen. Doesn't work like that. Nice to see, though, that making chat easier will become one of our important goals. That's cool. Hey, I want to know why y'all are focusing so much on introducing new content when the existing content has so many broken aspects. Thanks for your advice. We've noticed some problems about past development plan, and we will put more energy on fixing old problems and quality of life issues in the next year. This is what I was hoping, that now that they've got capitals out of the way, out of their system, so to speak, we can go back and look at quality of life and balance and things like that and fixing the game. I just kind of hope it's not too late. I'm sure it's not too late, but still. Please fix how the game handles big fights. I don't want to get black screens anymore. Yeah, we're back to this one. Hayden says, for the black screen issue, I may just add one thing. We have been manually conducting performance optimization tests on a small scale at various times. In the future, we'll make it automatic and update to both the international and Chinese servers at the same time. We'll continue to optimize connection issues to bring you a better gaming experience for sure. So, it's something they're working on. Will we get anime skins? Not on the plan. Thank goodness. The hate that this comment got, this will we get anime skins, was laudable. Like, seriously. There's so much stuff going on in the game right now. I hope you're trolling. There's so much stuff that needs fixing. Why on earth do you want anime ships? I've seen Azure Lane. You guys need to get your heads checked. Seriously, that's just weird. I then asked, when will interceptors and destroyers get meaningful changes? Interceptors are overpowered, destroyers need some considerable buffs. Melos responds, planned on next balance update. Huzzah, there's your confirmation. I then said, it's been mentioned that the August-October balance patches were pushed back because of capitals. When can we expect the new one? Why is it being done the way it is? And Lance here says, and this is huge to me, why do we set the balance adjustment at a specific time each year? Because every time the balance is adjusted, the player needs to spend time adapting and rediscovering his comfortable game mode. So we will only fix some bug-like content with maintenance every week and will not adjust the balance. I kind of get where they're coming from. I would love them to just do small bits of like monitoring and tweaking in the weekly balances, but this is why they want to do it in a half-yearly way. I personally don't agree, but if that's how they're going to do it, at least we now know why. Why did we skip the balance adjustment originally scheduled for October? There are two main reasons. One, because we spent a lot of time to promote flagships, carrier-based aircraft, induced jumps, jump drives, and new anomalies. We don't have enough manpower to cope with the balance adjustment originally scheduled for October. And two, they're ashamed that after the balance version in April this year, we found that some players left our game because of it. This allows us to reflect. This allows us to reflect on the quality of the balance adjustment to attract more players rather than drive them away. In the case of insufficient manpower, we're a conservative choice in order to avoid hasty, low-quality balance adjustments that would disappoint players and leave the game. And I think that's a valid way of looking at it. That you don't want to do these massive sweeping changes and cause players to leave. And I'm not sure what those massive sweeping changes really were. It's the introduction of scanning, I think, is what actually caused people to leave. But obviously that happened the same time as a balance patch, so it just looks like those two are correlated. I don't know, the developers have more data than I do. If they're saying that people left because of the balance patch, then that's why people left, I guess. When is the next balance adjustment? In our new annual plan, the balance adjustment will be set in April and October each year. Will still be twice a year. The priority of balance adjustment will be set higher, and manpower will be reserved in advance. The scope of adjustment is mainly in two aspects: combat balance and regional output balance. And that's a great thing to hear as well. And that if it's going to be twice a year, they're going to lock it in, and they're going to have dedicated manpower towards it. Are you 100% sure that the potato mode is working, and how does it work? It automatically hides models when your frame rate drops below a certain number, says Melos. That's basically what it does, so if you're not seeing it working, it's because your device is coping. With so many players leaving for EVE Online, what's your plan to keep the game alive? Melos says next year we'll try to concentrate more on quality of life updates, new corporation management tools, and bringing more PvE and PvP content. I think that's a solid answer. Industry, I think, comes under quality of life and PvE. They've talked about there are fixes they want to do there, they just don't know the exact direction it's going to take yet, but adding more quality of life for the second year, I think, is a good way to go. Get all of that content rushed out, and then fix the game. We added time dilation in April to alleviate short-term and black screen issues in large-scale battles. We've got more here on the time dilation thing. The function itself is fine, but the trigger timing is currently not very accurate, which causes it fail to be activated when some player needs it most. Recently, we're conducting some experiments, one of which is to optimize the timing of triggering time dilation. So that's why we're getting black screens. They are working on it. In the Sovereign defense, the defense is obviously in a weak position because buildings don't have any defensive structures. Melos says currently we don't have a plan, but we are actively discussing updating the Sovereign mechanics to make a small fleet fight make more sense in nullsec, which I'm all for. I don't think it should just basically be roams and then massive scale battles. I think you should be able to have skirmishes in there. That's cool. And then finally, the last question that I wanted to cover in today's video: could smaller fixes like mid-slots on an Explorer, or more pressing fixes like interceptors, possibly be addressed more urgently in the case of weekly maintenance? Now, Melos here reassuringly says it's not impossible. I will suggest Exile to double-check the schedule and re-evaluate the priority of different changes. Like, seriously, you know me, guys, I think the Destroyers need some significant changes urgently. I think Interceptors definitely need some big changes urgently. And just fixes like the mid-slots on an Explorer, it's such an easy thing. I know I've said this like about bug fixes, but surely adding a mid-slot is a very simple thing to do to a ship. Just get it done in a weekly weekly maintenance. Anyway, that's the first half, and my goodness, there's so much to cover there. Again, my apologies that it's not in any meaningful order. I'm going through this chronologically as the developers chose to answer it, and I'm trying to remember and give advice, you know, like when we talked about time dilation, and I can confirm that actually they've said things later on that make more sense, etc. I can talk about that. But that's the first half of this week's AMA. I'll have the second half up soon, where we go over the second half of the questions and what that all means going forward. There is also another AMA coming next week. I believe it's on Friday as well, which is on things like ship design and stuff, and new PvE and PvP content. Do head over to the official EVE Echoes Discord so you can make sure you join in on that one. Otherwise, folks, I'm not going to linger here because I'm losing my voice already. Whew, happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.